what's happening? I hope you're all well. So this is my boxing report for this week. So there's a few fights I want to cover, and the first fight I'm going to cover is a few fights that actually happened over the weekend. So the first one is going to be Pulev versus Forrest. Now this I thought was a good fight, Pulev versus Forrest. Before I watched it, obviously, I'm talking about when I heard it was happening, I thought that was a decent fight because Jerry Forrest, he's performed well against Jermaine Franklin, he performed well against Zili Zhang, he performed well against the last opponent, Michael Hunter. Probably unfortunate not to get the win against Michael Hunter. So going in against Kubrat Pulev, who is not at his best anymore, there was an opportunity for Forrest to go in there and win. However, Kubrat Pulev just kept the distance and basically just, he used his jab, he used his right hand, and he did very well against the southpaw. So Kubrat Pulev able to win that fight relatively comfortably. I thought there was a chance that Jerry Forrest could actually win that fight. Next fight I want to cover is I'm going to cover Ivan Holyfield versus Jurmain McDonald. Ivan Holyfield versus Jurmain McDonald. So this, Ivan Holyfield is the son of Evander Holyfield, and he fights at, let me just make sure I get this right, Ivan Holyfield, super welterweight. So he came into this fight 9-0, 6 KOs, and basically just, building a record and trying to get some experience. If I look at his previous opponents, journeyman type records, and by the looks of things, he was pretty much winning against these journeymen. He came up against Jurmain McDonald, who had a record of 6-5 going into the fight. So you think, looking at that, it was just typical journeyman. And the fight started off with Holyfield just, using his jab and trying to maintain distance, and it wasn't dominant, but it was pretty decent. And then out of nowhere, Jurmain McDonald just lands a punch, and Ivan Holyfield just did not recover from that punch. It was in the second round, and it came out of kind of nowhere, and he just couldn't get up in time. So that isn't necessarily definitive to say he should quit, but it's not great, is it? If you're 9-0 prospect, and then you get knocked out by a guy who comes into the fight with a record of 6-5. So perhaps it's time to assess how he goes forward, whether that be, keeping better distance, better defense, learning to tie up. I don't know, but obviously there's a bit of work there to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean he should quit. It doesn't necessarily mean he should quit, but there is work to do. And Sergey Kovalev versus Tervel Pulev. Tervel Pulev is the younger brother of Kubrat Pulev, and his record, he was undefeated going into this fight, and his record was, if I just check here, 16-0. This fight was at cruiserweight, and Sergey Kovalev was able to pretty much win on his jab. Sergey Kovalev has a very good jab, and it was on display again against Tervel Pulev. So Sergey Kovalev, he could go on from here. What could he do at cruiserweight at 39? That's debatable. But, if you look at the champions now, you've got Makabu, you've got, who have you got? You've got, is Bradis a belt holder at cruiserweight? Let me check that. Is Bradis a belt holder? But if you just looking at the opposition, you've got Makabu, you've got Bradis, you've got Akoli, Michunu, Dorticus, Badu Jack is now at cruiserweight. You got Perez, Riakpo. There are opponents there in cruiserweight that could make for some really good fights. So Kovalev, I think he could be involved in some fun fights, but because he's past his best now, I see him getting beaten. He's got a very good jab, he's got very good skill, but I just think that he could get beaten. He's shown that he's vulnerable to the body, he's shown that he's vulnerable to pressure. So I think that Kovalev, he could be in a good fight, but I think he would get beat by a lot of the top cruiserweights. So the next ones I want to cover are fights that are coming up So Alen Babic versus Adam Balski. Alen Babic is back, and I was wondering because it went a bit quiet with Alen Babic. You know, with Alen Babic, things went a bit quiet. He had that fight against Spilmont. Spilmont hurt Babic, and then he hasn't fought since December, so it went a bit quiet for Babic. And I was wondering, you know what is going on with Alen Babic, but Alen Babic is back. He's up against Adam Balski. I checked out Adam Balski, and I'm trying to figure out whether this fight is happening at heavyweight, because if I go to the box rec here, it doesn't say what weight this fight's happening. I checked out Balski, and most of this fight's are cruiserweight. So is this at cruiserweight, bridgerweight, heavyweight? I don't know. But I checked out Balski, and I think that, I saw him getting floored against a guy with, I think his record was 8. I think his record now is 8-7, and he lost to Masterneck. No shame in that. I think that Alen Babic will win this fight quite comfortably. I think Alen Babic, if he goes in doing what he normally does, unless he gets caught again like he did against Spilmont, I can see it rounds 1 to 5. He's gonna knock this guy out. So that's pretty much that. I'm still waiting to see Alen Babic really step up. They're going to manage him really carefully, because you see this guy, he's like cruiserweight, and Alen Babic obviously being a really small heavyweight, I see them really maybe managing him carefully, because if you look, he fought against Winters. Winters weighed in at 194. The second fight, he fought a guy 216 pounds. Damian Chambers came in at 198 3/4 pounds, and I know Eric Molina, but he's obviously not a great fighter. Mark Bennett, no disrespect to him, he's not a top level fighter. So those guys are heavy, but they're not like top level fighters. David Spilmont, he came in, not the best fighter, but I think they're going to manage Alen Babic really carefully, and something tells me when he steps up, he's going to get, either beaten soundly on points or knocked out. But either way, he's back, and I reckon he's going to win this fight in 1 to 5. The next one is Zhanibek Alimkhanuly versus Danny Dignam. Now, I think that Zhanibek is pretty decent. He's got good skill, southpaw. This is a battle of the southpaws, by the way. Good skill, southpaw. I watched him against Dignam, and he actually slowed down. He really got his stamp on that fight early on, and then he slowed down. So I think that he's not the biggest puncher, but he's not like feather-fisted either. And I think he could have got Dignam, knocked out a lot sooner. In the end, it got stopped because the ref jumped in and stopped it, because he thought Dignam was taking too much. But honestly, I think that Zhanibek, he can improve, but he's got some talent there. Danny Dignam, he's pretty decent. He beat, I think, Rob Grant in his last fight. Is that the guy's name? Rob Grant. Have a quick look there on his last fight. Let's see. Grant Dennis, excuse me. He beat Grant Dennis in his last fight. He knocked him out. I think, was it round 3? Round 6. He was having a bit of a difficult fight there against Grant Dennis. And then, because Grant Dennis was showing a lot of movement. And Danny Dignam, he's a solid fighter. He's not like, he doesn't do anything really well. He's strong though. He's a strong guy. He's not extremely powerful. He's not extremely quick. And he is a little bit clunky. He's a little bit slow with regards to his reactions. I'd say that he's a solid fighter, but has a bit of a issue with his defense. He gets caught a lot, and he did struggle against Grant Dennis, who showed him some movement. This is a great opportunity for him. And the other thing is, he has been on the floor at least once one time by a journeyman. The guy's name I remember, but I'm just trying to, I'll look it up. He fought on like a next gen show, and he got knocked down by a journeyman. Anthony Fox, that's it. He got knocked down by Anthony Fox, a journeyman. And he had another close fight against a journeyman, but I forgot which fight it was. And I can't remember if he's been down any other times, but he was down at least once by that journeyman, Anthony Fox. I remember that. So I think that Danny Dignam has it to do in this fight. You know, he has a lot to do in this fight. He's up against it. He's away from home as well in this fight. So I'm thinking that Danny Dignam probably is going to, you know, I think he's probably going to lose this fight quite soundly. I think he gets caught too much. I think that he doesn't do anything spectacular, but this is an opportunity for him. He does hit a little bit hard, I tell you that. I'll give him that. He got some power there. And from a technical standpoint, he's not terrible. So he's not terrible from a technical standpoint. He's got power, and it's two southpaws against each other. So he's got a chance, but I'm going to go with Zhanibek in that fight. And the last fight I'm going to cover is Zhan Kossobutskiy versus Johann Duhaupus. So that's obviously an unbeaten prospect coming up against a veteran who's, you know, I think he got knocked out by Tony Yoka in a round. I don't know if that was his last fight. I'm just checking to see if he had a fight since then. Oh, he did. He had a fight against like a journeyman in 1832 journeyman, Andres Kosomor, and got the knockout in the second round. But you know, Johann Duhaupus, 41 years old. You know, he tends to lose when he steps up. He got a good win against Robert Helenius, but he tends to lose when he steps up. He's older now, and he's coming up against a prospect who's got the momentum. You know, 17-0. He's got some decent wins, you know, with regards to prospect level. You know, Kamil Sokolowski, he knocked out Kamil Sokolowski. That's not an easy thing to do. He knocked out Joey Dweko in the second round, and that's not an easy thing to do. And he's pretty much doing what he's supposed to do with regards to being a prospect, going in there and beating these journeymen in good fashion. That's what he's supposed to be doing. And I don't think it's going to be any different here. I see him knocking out Johann Duhaupus. You know, anywhere, you know, early, mid-rounds, I see him knocking out Johann Duhaupus. So that is going to be a pretty comfortable win, in my opinion. So that's my boxing report for this week. If there's any other news that you want me to cover, or any other fights that you want me to cover, let me know. If you know of any fights that are of interest, then put it in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video, and I'll see you on the next video.